The rain fell hard against the stone walls of Ashford Manor. Each drop sounded like a tiny drum. Seraphina stood in the servants' entrance, dripping wet. Her dark hair stuck to her face. Her plain grey dress clung to her thin frame. She carried only a small bag. Everything she owned fit inside it. The housekeeper, Mrs. Winters, looked her up and down. The older woman's face showed no warmth. "You're late," she said. "The coach broke down, Mum," Seraphina replied. She kept her eyes down. Her voice stayed quiet and respectful. This was her life now. A maid. Nothing more. "Follow me," Mrs. Winters said. Her keys jangled as she walked. The sound echoed through the dark hallway. Seraphina followed. The manor felt cold. The walls were covered in old paintings. Rich carpets lined the floors. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceilings. This place smelled of money and power. It reminded her of a life she once knew, a life that felt like a dream now. But she didn't know the truth yet. She didn't know who owned this manor. She didn't know that her past was about to crash into her present like a storm. Mrs. Winters stopped at a small door. "This is your room. You share it with 2 other maids. Your duties start at dawn. You'll clean the West Wing. You'll serve meals. You'll speak only when spoken to. Do you understand?" "Yes, Ma'am," Seraphina said. "Good. The Duke's brother, Lord Edward, is kind. But the Duke himself—" Mrs. Winters paused. Her eyes narrowed. "Stay out of his way. He has a temper, and he doesn't like disruptions." Seraphina nodded. She didn't ask questions. She couldn't afford to lose this position. She had no money, no family, no options. Mrs. Winters left. Seraphina entered the small room. 2 narrow beds sat against the walls. A tiny window showed the rainy night outside. She set her bag down. Her hands shook. Not from cold, from fear, from exhaustion, from the weight of 5 years of survival. She sat on the bed. Her mind drifted back. Back to when she wore silk dresses, when she danced at balls, when her father was alive and their estate thrived, when a young duke asked for her hand in marriage, and when she said no. She had been 17, naive, full of dreams. She wanted love, not arrangement. She wanted passion, not duty. So she refused Alistair Blackwood, the Duke of Ashford. She broke the engagement her father had arranged. She thought she was choosing freedom, but her father died 3 months later. Debts she never knew existed swallowed their estate. Distant relatives took everything. She was left with nothing. She spent 5 years working in kitchens, scrubbing floors, sleeping in attics. She moved from house to house, town to town, always running from the shame, always hiding from the life she lost. And now, by cruel fate, she had ended up here, in the home of the man she rejected. But she didn't know that yet. The next morning came too soon. Seraphina woke before dawn. She dressed quickly in her maid's uniform, a black dress, a white apron, a white cap that covered her hair. She tied her hair tightly. She scrubbed her face. She looked in the cracked mirror. The girl who once wore jewels was gone. In her place stood a woman with tired eyes and rough hands. She went downstairs. The kitchen bustled with noise. Cooks chopped vegetables, pots boiled, fires crackled. Mrs. Winters handed her a tray. "Take this to Lord Edward's study," she said. "He takes his breakfast early. And remember, be invisible." Seraphina took the tray. She walked carefully through the halls. The manor looked different in daylight. Grander, more intimidating. She found the study. She knocked softly. "Come in," a kind voice called. She entered. Lord Edward sat at a desk covered in papers. He was younger than she expected, maybe 25. He had gentle eyes and a warm smile. He looked up at her. "Ah, you must be the new maid," he said. "Seraphina, is it?" "Yes, my lord," she said. She set the tray down carefully. "Thank you," he said. He watched her for a moment. "You look familiar. Have we met?" Her heart jumped, but she kept her face calm. "No, my lord, I don't believe so." He shrugged. "Perhaps I'm mistaken. My brother says I see friendly faces everywhere." He chuckled. "He's not wrong." She curtsied and turned to leave. "Oh, one more thing," Edward said. "My brother returns today. He's been in London for the past month. The household will be busier. Just a warning." "Thank you, my lord," she said. She left quickly. Her mind raced. The Duke was coming. She had to stay hidden. She had to avoid him. 5 years had passed. Maybe he wouldn't recognize her. Maybe she could survive this. But something felt wrong. Fate had brought her here for a reason, and fate was rarely kind. The Duke arrived at noon. Serafina heard the commotion from the servants' hall. Horses, carriages, footmen running, voices calling out commands. She stayed in the shadows. She scrubbed floors in the far corners of the manor. She kept her head down. But she couldn't hide forever. That evening, she was assigned to serve dinner. Mrs. Winters gave her strict instructions. "You will stand by the wall. You will pour wine when needed. You will not speak. You will not look directly at the Duke. Do you understand?" "Yes, ma'am," Serafina whispered. Her hands shook as she carried the wine decanter. She entered the dining room. The table stretched long and elegant. Candles flickered. Silver dishes gleamed. Lord Edward sat at one end, and at the other end sat the Duke, Alistair Blackwood. She almost dropped the decanter. Time stopped. Her breath caught. He looked the same. No, better, older, stronger. His dark hair was longer now, his jaw sharper, his shoulders broader. He wore a black coat that fit him perfectly. His grey eyes were cold, distant, like winter storms. He didn't look at her, not at first. She moved to the side. She stood against the wall. She tried to become invisible. Edward spoke cheerfully. "Brother, you must be exhausted. How was London?" "Tedious," Alistair said. His voice was deep, colder than she remembered. "The season is full of shallow women and desperate mothers. I have no patience for it." "You should marry," Edward said with a grin. "It would do you good. Soften that stone heart of yours." Alistair's jaw tightened. "I was engaged once. It ended poorly. I have no desire to repeat the experience." Serafina's heart clenched. He was talking about her. Even after 5 years, the wound remained. Edward sighed. "That was years ago. Surely you've moved on." "Have I?" Alistair's voice turned sharp. "Some betrayals don't fade, Edward. They burn. They leave scars." Edward fell silent. The room felt heavy. Serafina wanted to run, but she couldn't move. She was trapped. Then Alistair lifted his wine glass. It was empty. Edward gestured toward her. "The wine, if you please." She had no choice. She stepped forward. Her legs felt weak. She approached Alistair's side. She lifted the decanter. Her hand trembled. She poured slowly, carefully. She prayed he wouldn't notice her. But he did. His hand shot out. He grabbed her wrist. The decanter shook. Wine splashed onto the table. She gasped. Her eyes met his, and everything shattered. Recognition dawned in his grey eyes. Shock, then anger. His grip tightened. "You," he whispered. His voice was barely audible, but it cut like a blade. Edward looked confused. "Brother, what's wrong?" Alistair stood slowly. He didn't release her wrist. He stared at her face. His eyes searched every feature, memorizing, confirming. "Serafina Ashford," he said. Her old name. The name she hadn't heard in 5 years. Edward's eyes widened. "Ashford? The girl from—" "Yes," Alistair interrupted. His voice was ice. "The girl who rejected me. The girl who humiliated me. The girl who chose poverty over becoming my wife." He paused. A cruel smile touched his lips. And now she's here, in my home, as a maid. Serafina's throat closed. Tears burned her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. She lifted her chin. Please release me, Your Grace. Why? He asked. His smile widened, but there was no joy in it, only pain, only rage. You rejected me 5 years ago, he said slowly. Each word was deliberate. You said you would rather die than marry me. You said I was cold, heartless, not worthy of love. He leaned closer. His breath brushed her cheek. Now you're my brother's maid. Interesting. Edward stood. Alistair, let her go. This is fate, Alistair said. He released her wrist suddenly. She stumbled back. Tell me, Serafina, how does it feel? To fall so far, to scrub floors in the home of the man you scorned? She said nothing. She couldn't. Her pride was gone, her dignity shattered. But she wouldn't beg, she wouldn't cry, not in front of him. Leave us, Alistair said to Edward. Brother, I don't think... Leave. Us. His voice turned to steel. Edward hesitated. Then he left. The door closed softly. Serafina and Alistair stood alone. The candlelight flickered between them. The silence roared. But she didn't know what he would do next, and neither did he. Alistair walked to the window. He stared out at the dark grounds, his hands clasped behind his back. Serafina stood frozen. She waited. Her heart pounded so hard she thought he might hear it. Why didn't you tell me? He asked quietly. When you arrived, why didn't you reveal yourself? I didn't know this was your home, Your Grace, she said. Her voice shook. I needed work. I had no choice. He laughed bitterly. No choice? How ironic. You had a choice 5 years ago. You chose to refuse me, and now... He turned to face her. Now you have no choices at all. She flinched, but she met his eyes. I was 17. I was foolish. I believed in fairy tales. I wanted love, not duty. And did you find it? He asked. His tone mocked her. Did you find your great love, your fairy tale? No, she whispered. I found poverty, loss, hunger, pain. She swallowed hard. I paid for my choice every day. Something flickered in his eyes, something almost like sympathy, but it vanished quickly. Good, he said coldly. Perhaps you understand now. Actions have consequences. Rejections leave scars. I'm sorry, she said. The words came out broken. I was young. I didn't understand. Stop, he held up a hand. Your apology means nothing. You humiliated me in front of society. You made me look weak, unwanted. Do you know how long it took for people to stop whispering? How many women threw themselves at me, thinking I was desperate? His eyes burned. You ruined me. Then dismiss me, she said. Tears finally escaped. They ran down her cheeks. Send me away, punish me, but please, don't torture me. He stepped closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne, sandalwood and smoke. Torture, he whispered. No, I have a better idea. Her breath caught. What do you mean? You will stay, he said. You will work. You will serve. And every day you will remember what you lost. You will see the life you could have had, the wealth, the power, the title. He smiled cruelly. You will see me, and you will know that you threw it all away. That's cruel, she whispered. Yes, he agreed. It is, but you were cruel first. He walked past her. His shoulder brushed hers. She felt the heat of him, the anger, the pain. He stopped at the door. One more thing, he said without turning. You will serve me directly. Breakfast, dinner, whenever I require. You will be my personal maid. Your Grace! That is an order. He opened the door. Welcome to Ashford Manor, Serafina. I hope you enjoy your stay." He left. The door closed. She stood alone in the empty dining room, and she realized something terrible. He didn't just want revenge, he wanted her to break. But she didn't know yet that he was breaking too. The days that followed were torture. Serafina served Alistair every meal. She stood silently while he ate. She poured his wine. She cleared his plates. He barely looked at her. But his presence filled every room, heavy, suffocating, angry. She worked from dawn until midnight. She scrubbed his floors. She polished his boots. She prepared his bath. She folded his clothes. Every task reminded her of what she lost. Every moment in his presence burned. But something unexpected happened. She began to notice things. Small things. The way his jaw tightened when Edward mentioned marriage. The way his eyes softened when he looked at old paintings. The way his hand trembled slightly when he signed letters. He was hurting too. He was broken too. One evening she brought him tea in his study. He sat at his desk. Papers surrounded him. His hair was messy. His cravat loosened. He looked exhausted. She set the tray down quietly. "Stay," he said without looking up. She froze. "Your Grace?" "I said stay." He leaned back in his chair. His eyes met hers. "Tell me something. Why did you really refuse me?" She hesitated. "I told you." "The truth, Serafina." His voice was tired. Not angry, just sad. "No more lies, no more excuses. Why?" She took a breath. "Because I was afraid," she admitted. "Everyone said you were cold, heartless, cruel. They said you would never love me, that I would be nothing more than a title, a duty, a possession." She looked down. "I wanted to be loved, not owned." He was silent for a long time. Then he laughed softly, bitterly. "And they were right, weren't they? I am cold. I am cruel. Look at what I'm doing to you now." "Yes," she said quietly. "You are." He flinched, as if her words hurt more than any blow. "Leave," he said, his voice cracked. "Just leave." She left quickly, but as she closed the door, she heard something. A sound so soft she almost missed it. The sound of something breaking. A glass. Or maybe a heart. Someone was listening, though. Mrs. Winters stood in the hallway. Her eyes narrowed. She had heard everything. A week passed. Alistair grew colder, more distant. He stopped speaking to Serafina. He barely looked at her. She became a ghost in his life, present but invisible. She should have been relieved, but instead she felt something strange, something she didn't want to name. Longing. One night she couldn't sleep. She wandered the manor. The halls were dark and quiet. She found herself in the portrait gallery. Paintings of Blackwood ancestors lined the walls. She stopped in front of one. A beautiful woman with kind eyes. A label beneath read, "Duchess Margaret Blackwood, beloved wife of Duke Henry." "My mother," a voice said behind her. She turned. Alistair stood in the shadows. He wore only a white shirt and dark trousers. His hair was loose. He looked younger, vulnerable. "She's beautiful," Serafina said softly. "She was," he replied. He stepped closer, his eyes fixed on the painting. "She died when I was 10. My father followed a year later. Edward was only 5. I had to become Duke. I had to be strong, cold. I had no choice." Serafina's heart ached. "I'm sorry." "After they died, people used me," he continued. His voice was quiet, raw. "They wanted my money, my title, my influence. No one cared about me, just what I could give them." He finally looked at her. "And then you came along. Your father arranged our engagement. I thought, maybe you were different. Maybe you wanted me, not my title." "Alistair." "But you didn't," he said. His eyes glistened. "You rejected me. just like everyone else. You proved that I was unlovable, that I would always be alone. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I was wrong, she whispered. I was so wrong. I was a foolish girl who believed gossip. I didn't see you, the real you. I only saw the mask. He stepped closer, close enough to touch. And now? He asked. What do you see now? A man who's been hurt, she said. A man who hides his heart because he's afraid. A man who… She paused. Her voice broke. A man I could have loved, if I'd been brave enough. His hand reached out. His fingers brushed her cheek, wiped away her tears. Could have? He whispered. She didn't answer. She couldn't, because the truth was too dangerous, too impossible. She didn't could have loved him. She did love him. Now, in this moment, despite everything, despite the cruelty, despite the pain, she loved the broken man behind the mask. But she didn't know he felt the same. And that truth would change everything. The next morning, everything changed. Serafina was called to Mrs. Winter's office. The housekeeper sat behind her desk. Her face was stern, cold. Sit, she ordered. Serafina sat, her stomach twisted. Something was wrong. Mrs. Winters folded her hands. I know who you are, she said. Serafina Ashford, the girl who broke His Grace's heart, the girl who ruined him. Serafina said nothing. There was nothing to say. I have served this family for 30 years, Mrs. Winters continued. I watched the Duke grow up. I saw him suffer. I watched him build walls around his heart. And then you came along. You destroyed him. And now you're back, worming your way into his life again. I'm not… Silence. Mrs. Winters' voice cracked like a whip. I will not let you hurt him again. I will not let you manipulate him. So I am giving you a choice. Leave Ashford Manor today, or I will tell him the truth. Serafina's blood ran cold. What truth? Mrs. Winters smiled cruelly. The truth about why you're really here, about the letters. Serafina's heart stopped. How do you… I read them, Mrs. Winters said. The letters you've been writing, to Lord Edward, asking for money, begging for help, using your connection to the Duke to gain favour. That's not true. Serafina stood, her hands shook. I never wrote any letters. I didn't even know Edward before I came here. Didn't you? Mrs. Winters pulled out a stack of papers. Letters, written in handwriting that looked like Serafina's. But they were fake, forged. These say otherwise, and His Grace will believe me, not you. You're nothing. A maid, a liar, a gold digger. Serafina realized the trap. Mrs. Winters had forged the letters. She was framing her, driving her away, protecting Alistair the only way she knew how, by destroying Serafina. Please, Serafina whispered. Don't do this. Then leave, Mrs. Winters said. Today, or I show him these letters, and you will lose the only thing you have left, his fragile, foolish sympathy. Serafina had no choice. She nodded. Tears blurred her vision. I'll leave. But as she turned to go, the door burst open. Alistair stood there. His face was pale. His eyes blazed with fury. You'll do no such thing, he said. Mrs. Winters stood quickly. Your Grace, I was only… I heard everything, Alistair said. His voice was deadly calm. Every word, every lie. He stepped into the room. You forged those letters. You tried to frame her, to drive her away. Mrs. Winters' face crumbled. I was protecting you, Your Grace. She hurt you, she… That was my pain to bear, Alistair said, not yours to avenge. He looked at Serafina. His eyes softened. I'm sorry. I should have protected you. Instead, I made you a target. Your Grace, Mrs. Winters began. You're dismissed, Alistair said coldly. Pack your things. Leave by nightfall. And if I ever hear of you spreading lies about Serafina, I will ruin you. Mrs. Winters stared, shocked. Then she fled. The door slammed behind her. Serafina and Alistair stood alone. The silence was heavy, fragile. "Why?" Serafina whispered. "Why did you defend me?" Alistair stepped closer. His hand cupped her face. "Because I've been a fool," he said. "I wanted revenge. I wanted you to suffer. But all I did was hurt us both, and I can't do it anymore." "Alistair, I love you," he said. The words rushed out, raw, desperate. "I've loved you since the moment I met you, and I never stopped, even when I hated you, even when I wanted to hurt you. I loved you. And I'm sorry. For everything. For being cruel, for being cold, for punishing you for being young and afraid." Serafina's world spun. "You love me?" "Yes," he whispered. His thumb brushed her lips. "And if you leave, I will understand. But please, stay. Not as a maid, not as a servant, as yourself, as Serafina, the woman I should have fought for 5 years ago." She couldn't breathe, couldn't think, but her heart knew the answer. "I love you too," she whispered. "I think I always did. I was just too afraid to admit it." He smiled, a real smile, the first she'd ever seen from him. "Then don't be afraid anymore." He kissed her, softly, gently, like she was precious, like she was everything. And for the first time in 5 years, Serafina felt whole. But something still felt wrong. A shadow lingered, because they didn't know yet that someone else was watching, someone who wouldn't let them be happy so easily. The days after the kiss felt like a dream. Alistair moved Serafina out of the servants' quarters. He gave her a room in the main wing. He bought her dresses. He treated her like a lady, like an equal. Edward was thrilled. He welcomed her warmly. The staff whispered, but Alistair didn't care. He was done hiding. They spent hours together, walking the gardens, talking by the fire, sharing stories, sharing pain. Serafina learned about his childhood, his loneliness, his fear of being unloved. Alistair learned about her struggles, her father's death, her years of poverty, her shame. They healed each other, slowly, carefully. One evening they sat in the library. Rain fell outside. A fire crackled. Alistair held her hand. His thumb traced circles on her palm. "I want to marry you," he said suddenly. She looked up, shocked. "What?" "I want to marry you," he repeated. His eyes were serious, intense. "Not because of duty, not because of arrangement, but because I love you. Because I want to wake up beside you every day. Because I want to build a life with you." Tears filled her eyes. "Alistair." "I know it's fast," he said. "I know we've only just found each other again. But I wasted 5 years. I don't want to waste another moment." She kissed him, deeply, passionately. "Yes," she whispered against his lips. "Yes, I'll marry you." He smiled. He pulled her close. They sat together in the firelight, happy, hopeful, free. But the next morning, everything shattered. Serafina woke to shouting. She dressed quickly and ran downstairs. Alistair stood in the entrance hall. Edward was there too, and between them stood a man Serafina had never seen before. He was tall, dark-haired, handsome, but his eyes were cold, calculating. "Who is that?" Serafina asked. Edward turned. His face was pale. "Lord Greaves. He's a creditor." "Not just any creditor," Lord Greaves said smoothly, his eyes fixed on Serafina. "I hold the debts of the late Mr. Ashford, Serafina's father." Her stomach dropped. "What?" "Your father owed me £50,000, Greaves continued, "a debt that was never paid, a debt that passed to his heir, to you." "That's impossible," she whispered. "I have nothing. I can't pay." "Oh, but you can," Greaves said. His smile was cruel. "You see, I've come to collect. Either you pay the debt," he paused, Or you marry me. I'm willing to forgive the debt in exchange for your hand." Seraphina's world tilted. "You can't be serious." "I am," Greaves said. "Quite serious. And if you refuse, I will have you arrested, thrown into debtor's prison. You'll rot there for the rest of your life." Alistair stepped forward. His face was thunderous. "She's not marrying you. I'll pay the debt. Name your price." Greaves laughed. "I don't want your money, Duke. I want her. She's special, and I've waited a long time to claim what's mine." "She's not yours," Alistair growled. "Legally she is," Greaves said. He pulled out papers. "According to the law, debts can be paid through marriage, and Miss Ashford has no other means to settle her father's obligations." Seraphina looked at Alistair. His eyes were desperate, wild. "Don't listen to him," he said. "We'll find another way. I'll pay him. He doesn't want money," she said softly. Her voice was numb, empty. "He wants me, and if I refuse, I go to prison. Either way, I lose you." "No," Alistair said. His hands gripped her shoulders. "No, I won't let him take you. I won't lose you again." "You don't have a choice," Greaves said. "Unless," he tilted his head, "unless you want to watch her be dragged away in chains. That could be arranged." Seraphina felt the walls closing in. She looked at Alistair, the man she loved, the man she'd just promised to marry, and she realized the cruelest truth of all. Fate had brought them together, only to tear them apart again. "I'll do it," she whispered. "What?" Alistair's voice broke. "No, Seraphina, no." "I'll marry him," she said. Tears streamed down her face. "I won't let you sacrifice everything for me. I won't let you destroy yourself trying to save me." "Excellent choice," Greaves said. He extended his hand. "Come, my dear. We have arrangements to make." Alistair grabbed her, pulled her against his chest. "Please," he begged. His voice cracked. "Please don't do this. I can't lose you. Not again. Not like this." She kissed him one last time, tasted his tears, felt his heart breaking against hers. "I love you," she whispered. "Remember that. Always." Then she pulled away. She took Greaves's hand, and she walked out of Ashford Manor, out of Alistair's life, out of her own happiness. But she didn't know yet that Alistair wasn't the type of man to give up, and he was about to do something desperate. Alistair stood frozen, watching Seraphina leave. His world crumbled. Edward grabbed his arm. "Brother, we have to do something," Edward said urgently. "We can't just let her go." Alistair's hands clenched into fists. His mind raced. There had to be a way, some loophole, some solution. "The debt," he said suddenly. "It's legal, but it's not absolute." "What do you mean?" Edward asked. "Debts can be transferred," Alistair said, his eyes lit with dangerous determination. "If someone else assumes the debt, Greaves loses his claim. He can't force her to marry him if she doesn't owe him anything." Edward's eyes widened. "You want to buy the debt from him?" "He won't sell," Alistair said. "He wants Seraphina, not money. But—" he paused. An idea formed. Risky, reckless, perfect. "But I can force him." "How?" "Lord Greaves is not the saint he pretends to be," Alistair said. "He has secrets, dark ones. I've heard whispers, gambling debts, illegal dealings. If I can find proof, I can blackmail him."
"Force him to release Seraphina from the arrangement." Edward paled. "That's dangerous. If you're caught—" "I don't care," Alistair said. His voice was steel. "I've spent my whole life being cautious, being cold, playing by the rules, and it cost me everything. I won't make that mistake again. I will get her back, no matter the cost." He turned and strode toward his study. Edward followed. "What do you need me to do?" "Send word to my contacts in London," Alistair said. "Investigators, lawyers, anyone who can dig up dirt on Greaves. I need information. Fast." Edward nodded. He left to send the messages.
Alistair paced his study. His mind burned with plans, with fear, with rage. He wouldn't lose Seraphina. Not to Greaves, not to fate, not to anything. Meanwhile, Seraphina sat in a carriage with Lord Greaves. He watched her with cold satisfaction. "You made the right choice," he said. "Prison would have destroyed you." She said nothing. She stared out the window. Her heart was numb, empty. She had sacrificed her happiness for Alistair's peace. Now she would marry a stranger, live a life of misery, pay for her father's mistakes forever. "You'll learn to love me," Greaves said. His hand touched her knee. She flinched. He smiled. "Or not. I don't particularly care. I just want you. You're beautiful, useful, and you'll give me access to the Duke's world, his connections, his power." She realized then. Greaves didn't want her. He wanted what she represented. A link to Alistair, a way to climb higher, use her, control her. "I'll never love you," she said quietly, "and I'll never help you." He laughed. "You won't have a choice." But he was wrong, because in 3 days, Alistair would come for her, and he would bring hell with him. 3 days passed like torture. Seraphina stayed in Greaves's manor, a gilded cage. He didn't touch her, not yet, but his eyes followed her constantly, hungry, possessive. She felt like prey. She tried to escape. Once, but his guards caught her, dragged her back. Greaves wasn't angry. He just smiled. "Try again, and I'll have the Duke arrested for interfering. I have connections too, my dear. Don't test me." She stopped trying, but she didn't stop hoping. Every night she prayed that Alistair was safe, that he'd moved on, that he'd found peace, even if it meant she never saw him again. On the 3rd night, everything changed. Seraphina was in her room when she heard shouting, crashes, the sound of breaking glass. She ran to the window. Torches lit the dark grounds, horses, men, and at the front of them all, Alistair. He rode like vengeance. His face was set in fury. Edward was with him, and behind them, a dozen armed men. They stormed Greaves's manor. The doors burst open. Seraphina's heart leapt. She ran, down the stairs, through the halls. She reached the main entrance just as Alistair shoved Greaves against the wall. His hand gripped Greaves's throat. "She's mine," Alistair snarled. "She was always mine, and you will never touch her again." Greaves laughed, choked. "You can't do this. The debt is legal." "Not anymore," Alistair said. He threw papers at Greaves's feet. "I found everything. Your gambling debts, your forged documents, your illegal dealings. I have witnesses, evidence, enough to see you hanged." Greaves's face went white. "You're bluffing." "Try me," Alistair said. His voice dropped to a deadly whisper. "Release her. Now. Or I will destroy you. I will ruin your name, strip your title, leave you with nothing." Greaves looked at the papers, at Alistair's face, at the armed men, and he knew. He'd lost. "Fine," he spat. "Take her. She's not worth this trouble." Alistair released him. Greaves crumpled to the floor. Alistair turned. His eyes found Seraphina, and everything else disappeared. He crossed the room in 3 strides. He pulled her into his arms, held her so tightly she couldn't breathe. But she didn't care. She was safe. She was home. "I'm sorry," he whispered into her hair. "I'm so sorry I let you go. I should have fought harder, faster. I should have—" "You came," she interrupted. Her tears soaked his coat. "That's all that matters. You came for me." He pulled back, cupped her face. "I will always come for you, no matter where you are, no matter what stands in my way. I love you, Seraphina, and I will spend the rest of my life proving it." She kissed him, deep, desperate, grateful. The room faded. The danger, the fear, all that existed was them, together, Finally. Edward cleared his throat. Shall we leave, before Greaves changes his mind? Alistair laughed. He swept Seraphina into his arms, carried her out of the manor, out of the nightmare, into the night. She clung to him, her heart full, her soul light. But the story wasn't over yet, because back at Ashford Manor, someone waited. Someone with one final secret to reveal. They returned to Ashford Manor at dawn. The household erupted in joy. Servants cheered. Edward opened champagne. Alistair refused to let Seraphina go. He held her hand, touched her face, as if afraid she'd vanish. But there was still one person missing. Mrs. Winters. Where is she? Seraphina asked. Edward's face darkened. She's still here. Alistair gave her 1 week to pack. She's in her quarters. Seraphina looked at Alistair. I want to see her. Why? He asked. Confused. Concerned. Because I need to understand, she said. Why she hated me so much. Why she tried to destroy me. Alistair hesitated, then nodded. They walked together to the servants' wing, to Mrs. Winters' small room. Alistair knocked. No answer. He opened the door anyway. Mrs. Winters sat by the window. She looked older, smaller, broken. She didn't look up. I suppose you've come to gloat. No, Seraphina said softly. She entered the room. Alistair stayed at the door. I came for answers. Mrs. Winters laughed bitterly. Answers? What good will they do? Please, Seraphina said. She knelt beside the older woman. Why did you hate me? I never hurt you. Mrs. Winters was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke. Her voice was thick with grief. Because you reminded me of her. Who? My daughter, Mrs. Winters whispered. Tears filled her eyes. She was beautiful, kind, like you, and she fell in love with a duke. Not his grace, another duke, in another county. She paused. He promised her everything, marriage, love, a title. She believed him. She gave him her heart, her innocence, her trust. Seraphina's stomach twisted. She knew how this story ended. But he lied, Mrs. Winters continued. He was already engaged to someone else, someone richer, more connected. He used my daughter, ruined her, then cast her aside like trash. Her voice broke. She killed herself, drowned in the river. She was only 19. Seraphina's hand covered her mouth. Alistair stepped forward, his face pale. Mrs. Winters, I didn't know. How could you? Mrs. Winters looked at him. Her eyes were hollow. It happened 20 years ago, before you were even Duke. But when Miss Ashford rejected you, I saw my daughter again. Saw a girl who thought she was too good for a duke, who thought she could play games with powerful men. She looked at Seraphina. I wanted you to suffer, the way my daughter suffered, the way I suffered. Seraphina's heart broke. I'm so sorry, she whispered. But I'm not her. And Alistair is not the man who hurt your daughter. We're different people, different love. Mrs. Winters nodded slowly. I know. I see that now. And I'm sorry too, for what I did to you, for trying to take away your happiness. She looked at Alistair. Forgive an old woman. I let grief poison me, turn me into something ugly. Alistair knelt beside her, took her hand. You served my family faithfully for 30 years. You helped raise Edward. You cared for this house. One mistake doesn't erase that. He paused. Stay, if you want. Not as punishment, but as family. Mrs. Winters stared, shocked. Your Grace, we've all been hurt, Alistair said gently. We've all made mistakes, but we don't have to keep hurting each other. We can heal. Together. Mrs. Winters wept. She gripped his hand. Thank you, she sobbed. "Thank you." Serafina touched the older woman's shoulder, and in that moment, something shifted. The pain of the past began to fade. Forgiveness took root, slowly, carefully, but real. Yet one more revelation was coming, the biggest of all. Spring came to Ashford Manor. The gardens bloomed, birds sang, and Serafina prepared to marry the Duke. A real wedding this time, not duty, not arrangement, love. She stood in her room, wearing a dress of ivory silk. Lace covered her arms, pearls adorned her hair. She looked in the mirror, and for the first time in 5 years, she saw herself. Not a maid, not a girl, a woman. Strong, loved, whole. A knock sounded. "Come in," she called. Edward entered. He wore a fine suit. His smile was warm. "You look beautiful," he said. "Thank you," she said. "For everything. For being kind. For welcoming me." "How could I not?" he said. "You make my brother happy. That's all I've ever wanted for him." She hugged him, then asked the question that had haunted her for weeks. "Edward, can I ask you something?" "Anything." "That first day," she said, "when you said I looked familiar, did you mean it? Or were you just being polite?" He hesitated. His smile faded. "I meant it. You did look familiar, but I didn't realize why until later." "What do you mean?" Edward walked to the window, looked out at the gardens. 5 years ago, after you rejected Alistair, he was destroyed. He locked himself in his study for weeks, barely ate, barely slept. I was terrified he'd do something. Permanent. He turned to face her. One night I found him drunk, crying. He said something I never forgot. "What did he say?" He said, "She's right. I am cold. I am heartless. I don't deserve love." Edward's voice softened. And then he said, "But I loved her. God help me, I loved her. And I always will." Serafina's eyes filled with tears. "He said that?" "Yes," Edward said. "He never stopped loving you. Even when he hated you, even when he hurt you, you were always in his heart." He smiled. "So when you arrived, something in my mind recognized you. Not your face, but your presence. The woman my brother couldn't forget." She covered her mouth. Sobs shook her shoulders. "I wasted so much time, so many years." "No," Edward said firmly. He took her hands. "You both needed those years. To grow, to understand, to become the people you are now. People who can love each other properly, deeply, truly." She nodded. He was right. The pain had shaped them, broken them, then remade them into something stronger. "Come," Edward said. "Your groom is waiting, and trust me, he's terrified you'll change your mind." She laughed through her tears. "Never. Not this time." They walked together through the manor, down the grand staircase, through the halls lined with flowers, out into the gardens where guests gathered, where Alistair stood beneath an arch of white roses. He turned, saw her, and his face transformed. Shock, awe, joy, love, pure, unfiltered love. She walked toward him. Each step felt like a promise, a healing, a beginning. She reached him. He took her hands. His eyes glistened. "You're real," he whispered. "You're actually here." "I'm here," she whispered back. "And I'm never leaving." The ceremony was simple, beautiful. The vicar spoke of love and forgiveness, of second chances, of grace. And when he asked, "Do you, Alistair Blackwood, take this woman to be your wife?" Alistair's voice rang clear and strong. "I do, forever." And when he asked, "Do you, Serafina Ashford, take this man to be your husband?" She smiled. Tears streamed down her face. "I do, with all my heart." They kissed. The guests cheered. Flowers fell like rain. And in that moment, the past 5 years disappeared. The pain, the regret, the loneliness, all that remained was them, together, finally. But the day held one more surprise, one final twist that would complete their story. The wedding celebration lasted into the evening. Guests danced, musicians played, laughter filled the air. Serafina and Alistair stood together on the terrace, watching the sunset, his arm around her waist, her head on his shoulder. "I have something for you," he said. She looked up. "Another gift? You've already given me everything." "Not everything," he said. He pulled out a letter, old, yellowed, sealed with wax. "This belonged to your father. I found it among his papers, papers that Greaves was supposed to destroy, but he kept them, hoping to use them against you." Her hands shook as she took the letter. "What is it?" "Read it," he said gently. She broke the seal, unfolded the paper, and began to read. Her father's handwriting stared back at her, familiar, comforting, a voice from the grave. "My dearest Serafina, if you are reading this, I am gone, and I fear I have left you with more burdens than blessings. I am sorry, my darling girl. Sorry for the debts, sorry for the mistakes, sorry for arranging your engagement without truly understanding your heart. I thought I was protecting you, securing your future, but I see now that I was only protecting myself, my pride, my legacy. I want you to know, your rejection of the Duke was not wrong. You were brave. You stood up for yourself, for your dreams. I should have supported you. Instead, I pressured you, made you feel guilty. If you ever see the Duke again, tell him something for me. Tell him that you are the most precious thing in my life, that any man who wins your heart must deserve it, must earn it, not through title or wealth, but through love. True, honest, selfless love. And if the Duke is that man, if he loves you the way you deserve, then you have my blessing. Always. Forgive me, my child, and be happy. That is all I ever wanted for you. Your loving father." Serafina's tears fell onto the paper, smudging the ink. She looked at Alistair. He understood." "Yes," Alistair said. His own eyes were wet. "He loved you, and he wanted you to choose your own path, even if it led away from me." "But it led back to you," she whispered. "Through pain, through time, back to you." He kissed her forehead. "Because some loves are inevitable, fate doesn't give up easily." She folded the letter carefully, held it close to her heart. "Thank you," she said, "for finding this, for giving me his blessing, even after everything." "He was right," Alistair said. "You are precious, and I will spend every day earning your love, proving that I'm worthy of it." "You already have," she said. She cupped his face. "You came for me. You fought for me. You forgave me. You loved me when I didn't deserve it." "You always deserved it," he said. "I was just too broken to see it." They stood together in the fading light, two broken people made whole, two hearts that finally found home. The past was behind them, the future stretched ahead, full of promise, full of hope, full of love. Inside the manor, the celebration continued. Edward danced with a young lady. Mrs. Winters smiled from the corner. Servants laughed and shared stories. Ashford Manor felt alive again. Warm. Happy. A house transformed into a home. And somewhere in the distance, beyond the gardens and the fields, beyond the hills and the horizon, fate smiled. Because its work was done. Two souls meant to be together had finally found their way. Through rejection, through pain, through 5 long years of separation, they found each other, and nothing would ever tear them apart again. A year passed. Serafina stood in the nursery. Sunlight streamed through the windows. She held a tiny bundle in her arms, a baby girl, with Alistair's grey eyes and her dark hair. The baby cooed softly, content, loved. Alistair entered. He crossed the room quietly, wrapped his arms around both of them. "How are my girls?" he whispered. "Perfect," Serafina said. She leaned back against him. "She has your stubbornness." He laughed. "And your beauty." They stood together, watching their daughter, their miracle, their future. So much had changed in 1 year. The manor was full of life now. Edward had married. Mrs. Winters had become the baby's doting grandmother figure. Even Lord Greaves had faded into obscurity, his reputation destroyed, his power gone. "Do you ever think about it?" Alistair asked. "What would have happened if you'd said yes, 5 years ago?" Serafina considered. "We would have married, but we wouldn't have been happy. Not really. We weren't ready. We didn't understand each other, or ourselves." "Do you regret it?" he asked. "The pain? The years apart?" She turned in his arms, looked into his eyes. "No," she said, "because that pain brought us here, to this moment, to this life, to this love." She smiled. "I wouldn't change a thing." He kissed her, soft, sweet, grateful. "Neither would I." The baby made a small sound. They both looked down. She was watching them. Her tiny hand reached up, touched Serafina's cheek, then Alistair's, as if blessing them, sealing their happiness. "What should we name her?" Alistair asked. Serafina thought for a moment, then smiled. "Hope. We'll name her Hope, because that's what she is. The hope we almost lost. The hope we fought for. The hope that saved us." "Hope Blackwood," Alistair said. He kissed the baby's forehead. "Perfect." They stood together, a family, complete, whole, healed. Outside, the sun set over Ashford Manor, painting the sky in gold and rose. Birds sang their evening songs, flowers swayed in the gentle breeze, and inside, in the nursery, 3 hearts beat as one. The story that began with rejection, with pain, with 5 years of separation, had become a story of redemption, of forgiveness, of second chances. A story that proved love doesn't always arrive on time. Sometimes it's late. Sometimes it's messy. Sometimes it requires breaking before it can be made whole. But when it finally arrives, when 2 people stop running and start fighting for each other, it becomes something unstoppable, something eternal, something worth every tear, every sacrifice, every moment of doubt. Serafina looked at Alistair, the man who rejected her rejection, the man who refused to let her go, the man who loved her through hatred, through cruelty, through 5 years of bitter loneliness. And she knew with absolute certainty that this was where she belonged, in his arms, in his home, in his heart. "I love you," she whispered. "I love you more," he whispered back. Baby Hope yawned, closed her tiny eyes, and drifted to sleep. Safe, loved, surrounded by the 2 people who would move mountains for her, just as they had moved mountains for each other. And somewhere, in the realm where stories live forever, this one closed its final page. Not with an ending, but with a beginning. The beginning of a lifetime. The beginning of a legacy. The beginning of a love that would echo through generations. A love that started with 4 simple words. "You rejected me once," and answered with 4 words more. "I'll never reject you again."